All right, welcome to the Sweet Science of Fighting podcast. Today we have John Bell. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. We've chatted a little bit over DMs, nothing extensive, so it'll be actually interesting. Let's start with fill us in with who you are, what you're doing. It'll be good for myself, and be good for the audience too, and then we're just gonna shoot the shit from there.
Cool. So I'm John Bell. I'm a full-time lecturer at Leeds Beckett University here in the UK. I'm currently on the board and in charge of sports medicine for the English MMA Association. I also hold the same role with GB Muay Thai Association as well. I was formerly of the British Wrestling Association, so GB Wrestling, and I've also done work with England boxing. Before that, I was very much working in kind of conventional kind of professional football, professional rugby league over here in the UK and briefly in Europe as well. And before that, I was a team medic in the military, and that's kind of how it developed into kind of going into sports medicine. After that, I saved loads of money up from Afghanistan and decided I wanted to go to uni and see how that was, and it's turned out relatively okay for me so far. I think that's roughly, and that's my research story. Obviously, with me working in all those areas, my published academic publications have all been in grappling and the future ones as well. To whenever I finish them, fingers crossed, which were not too long. There again. Bare knuckle boxing, grappling, freestyle wrestling, GB Muay Thai, that kind of thing.
Well, what kind of research are we talking here? Because you obviously mentioned sports medicine. So what are some of the topics of some of that research?
Well, there's one really interesting one, James. There's one that's much more interesting than the rest, so I'll tell you that one. I started out with like basic epidemiologies. So you'll know it's the same pattern for all research. If there's not anything there, you need to lay the foundation. And in sports med, the foundation is, well, what injuries are happening, how much and where and why. So I did a lot of that to start off with. And then as I got publications and people realized I wasn't completely incompetent, you can then bid for grants. Once you've kind of like shown, okay, he's not terrible, we'll let him have some money now to do something with. And I've been using instrumented mouth guards. So these instrumented mouth guards measure head acceleration, so both linear and angular. And we, predominantly me, but a team. So basically, these mouth guards came from rugby league originally. My university were kind of got in there really kind of quick near the beginning and did all the validity study for these mouth guards. Used them in rugby league initially, then moved on to rugby union. Now they're mandatory in all of rugby league and rugby union. So like the England team wear them. I think all Six Nations teams have to wear them now. You're not allowed on the field of play without one, basically. So I've been the first to use them in competitive combat sports. So they've used them in sparring before in boxing, but they've never used them in a competition. And we used them first actually in the BKFC. So Conor McGregor's bare knuckle boxing. Yeah, and that's been really interesting. Again, it's just kind of so new that you get the data, don't you? You look at it and be like, well, what am I going to do with it? I could go a million different ways. And there's that overriding pressure just not to look like an idiot all the time. So you've just got the data and you're like asking the members of the team to have a bit more experience, even though I'm supposed to be leading it and I'm trying not to sound like too stupid. And I'm finally kind of getting the grips now. I understand it eventually, and it's been about a year and a half. And yeah, so basically we're finishing off a few papers with that. We've got a few conferences coming up that we're going to present some of the data at, 1 in 2 weeks, a few over the summer. And yeah, basically that's the most exciting kind of thing that I'm doing, just because it's completely novel at the moment and it's going to have quite high impact, where originally I was kind of just doing, I was just happy to get publications, throw them in any journal will take them. Where now I'm actually doing something that's it's probably going to be seen all around the world, and probably impact rule sets. Yeah, so that's what I'm most excited about, and that's probably by far the most interesting research that I've done.
So what are you looking at metric wise with these instrumented mouth guards? And then what is that influence maybe for you in terms of practice, or maybe for these organizations who are putting these events together, or medical staff, or whatever it is? What's the data that comes to you guys? Then how does that influence, or what's the outcome from that data?
So you get a lot of it actually, but I figured out that what we really just need is frequency and magnitude, and then overall load. To be fair, like a lot of it is what you would expect. So if you're in a professional boxing match and they do 12 rounds, the overall load is generally a lot higher than an amateur boxing or even a bare knuckle boxing match that go maximum 5 rounds. And that's obviously because they've done more than twice as many rounds. So there's some things that, I mean, no one has ever done them before. So even the things that are obvious are still going to be worth reporting. And then the magnitude is obviously, we're looking at like the highest it's all measured in newtons basically, the highest linear and angular accelerations, but also the speed as well. So not only the velocity, kind of like the overall calculation of it together, kind of just gives a big number. And we use them best, and again, this was nothing to do with me, so I can't take credit, but how they're using them in rugby league and union. So they use them in real time. So you get real time data. At the moment, I'm pretty much just using the data afterwards, and I do nothing real time apart from collect. But you being your predominantly your physio team, your medical bay team, and you have to have an alert on it. So if they go above 50 newtons, it comes up red with the player's name, and you then have to take that player off for a head assessment. It could pass, but so far I don't think anyone's passed. I think the validity of it's really high. No one's who's come up from the head impact has then passed a concussion test. As far as I'm aware, I might be talking rubbish there, but last time I heard, or at least that's what I got told. So yeah, practically in rugby they're used really well. In combat sports, it's so new that, I mean, it is really hard. So for example, I was in a medical course the other day, one a FIFA ran one, so for football, sorry, not FIFA, the FA, so the English Football Association, and we were going through the medical procedures of when people get hurt, and it was just pretty much as soon as you see a head impact or any contact to the head, you then you do mills, so the way pretty much you always protect the spine. You treat it like a concussion no matter what. You'll get your spinal boards ready. And I was just thinking, I work in sports where the whole goal is to hit people in the head. So there's like, you're getting these like 100 odd head impacts in a match. And then I'm at a course in football where they're like one head impact and that's it. We're taking them off. We're getting a spinal board. And that just reminded me of how hard it is now, how to use the mouth guards, because alerts won't matter. No one cares at bare knuckle boxing if they've got an alert of a 50. People are getting like 3 or 4 alerts per match. Like, I don't know what to answer your question. I've been very long-winded, but I have no idea, James. I have no idea how they're going to be, how I keep them yet. The only useful thing not useful, it's useful just to document it, but in GB Muay Thai, we're going through the different rule sets, so the different categories. So N class, B class, C class, Pro-Am. And basically, they do different rule sets. So N class wear shin pads. They can't punch. Can they punch to the head? Basically, you get the gist. Everyone going up to Pro, obviously, it gets like more brutal. I'm trying to figure out how much of an impact it actually has. Does it actually change head impact much because they're wearing shin pads? And that will probably have a direct impact on the rule sets. And I'm also trying to find out if bare knuckle boxing is safer than glove boxing. So
that's going to be one of my questions. Have you seen any differences in head impacts?
So no, and yes. So the theory is always, I was on the BBC News actually not long ago trying to talk about this, and I got absolutely kind of ambushed. They lied to me. They lied to me completely what they wanted to talk about. They put me in a hot room with no aircon. I melted, and then came out and they just attacked me with lots of these questions about is bare knuckle morally right, and is it promoting violence in the streets? And I was like, I'm in charge of medical research. I have no idea.
Why are you asking me these things?
The argument would be this. The argument is, so if you, and it's purely used in biomechanics, isn't it? Which is what I specialize in. So if you were to hit someone with a small object, like a knuckle, for example, all of the energy from that punch is going to be concentrated in a very small area, a bit like a knife. So a knife will always pierce someone's skin, but it's going to be just completely around that one area where the knife can touch. And it's small, so it's going to cause a lot of soft tissue damage to the area if you get hit by a knuckle, but it's superficial. So what we're really worried about, or what is the real damage, is, CTE, diffuse axonal injury, where obviously you get damage to the nerve fibers in the brain, and then it's like scar tissue in the brain, basically. And that comes from repeated load, and it comes from high load as well. And you would think through a gloved hand, because everything is strapped and compact, they can hit more and they can hit hard without any worry about hurting your hand. I know if anyone's actually ever punched anything, hopefully not a person, but a wall, anything out of anger, they'll know that really hurts if you punch something without a glove on. Plus, you should get more momentum transfer as well if you're wearing a glove for the larger surface area. And that's always been the argument, and no one's been able to prove it. And obviously, till I publish stuff, there is the whole ethical issue that I can't give too much information, but I can say that it's confusing. It's about the same, roughly, and basically the reason why it's about the same is because the bare knuckle boxers are incredibly tough and mental, so they're just hitting as hard as you would do with gloves.
They have their hands wrapped super tight as well, right? Like they have it's like literally braced.
The hand bare knuckle, so it's different per promotion. Some strap up to the knuckle, but obviously the whole rules if you have to have your knuckles out, and some literally just strap the wrist. BKFC, they go around the thumb, so they go around the thumb and back, I believe. So the big thing is, what's the difference between professional boxing and BKFC is they always limit it to 5 rounds in bare knuckle boxing. So they're 2-minute rounds, and there's 5 of them, where professional boxing obviously can be this more than twice as much. So professional boxing will always be worse, but it's merely to do with the fact that there's more time. There's more time to hit each other, which I know it's not groundbreaking. And I need to collect more. I'll probably be collecting for like another year or 2. But generally speaking, it's if you give people more time to hit each other, then they will have more head impacts and more overall load, which it probably wouldn't have cost a £15,000 grant and all the money on math guys. But yeah, that's basically it.
If you're anything like me, you're short on time. Kids, family, work, training, and having to cook meals on top of that is just not going to happen. So I'm happy to announce Trifecta Nutrition are sponsoring the podcast. You get epic meals like these ones: turkey taco bowl, Texas barbecue protein plate. These are a couple of my favorites. But it means you don't have to prepare all your own meals, and it makes getting and good nutrition relatively easy. I've tried other meal delivery companies. Most of them are too high fat, not enough carbohydrates, or if you're getting kits where you have to cook it yourself, the portions for 2 is actually for 1, especially if you are like me and you're training often. So if you want to take something off your plate and have meals like this delivered to your door, go down the description. There's a link there where you can order Trifecta meals. This is the performance line, which are higher protein and higher carbohydrate. And you can use code LIFTBIG40. You'll get 40% off your first order. I remember I interviewed Gary. I don't know if you listened to Gary Turner at all on his next stuff.
I have done, but not regularly.
So I interviewed him way back when I started this podcast, like episode 3, I think it was. And he was talking about, similar to what you were saying about kind of like that short, surface area for a punch versus a larger one with the glove. And that potentially, obviously, having the larger surface area means more force around the head, etc. Same thing he was talking about with headgear. I don't know if that's something you've looked at as well. Like headgear, obviously, they use to mitigate cuts and things, but they often also use it as almost like a safety net for, I guess, brain injury. Do you also have you seen anything different with the mouse guards with headgear versus no headgear?
So we've not used them in headgear, but some of the regional studies with the technology, not as it's dated now compared to these mouth guards, but they used to put them in headwear, didn't they? Just because they hadn't figured out how to make them small enough to put them in a mouth guard, but they could put them in the headgear. So I've seen some of the old kind of, I guess you would call them historical studies now. And yeah, pretty much. It doesn't stop the head going back, and it doesn't stop the head turning in an angular fashion, and that's what causes the injury. It's whiplash to the brain. So it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't really matter that it's padded on the front because it would stop lacerations basically, but it will do, from what I can tell. And we are going to put them in kids. Kids, I should give more context to that. We're just going to find some kids and give them some mouth guards. We're going to put it in to when you hit the point in amateur boxing where you can take away the head guards, and we're going to kind of measure just before that when I wear head guards to just after. And yeah, but from what I can see from the more historical studies, it doesn't really matter at all. In terms of what we call CTE, which is literally just a whiplash effect. And I can't show you yet, it's certainly not recorded, but we've got some really good models, like computer-based like models of what's happening to the brain. So there's a computing engineer on the team he's so smart, he's intimidatingly smart, and he can make some amazing models with the data. And you can see kind of where the head's twisting, it comes up with all the angular and linear velocity, but then we can also now see how it affects the brain inside the head. And it is really cool, and it's kind of like such a good visual way to be able to show someone who, if you just tell people numbers, they're generally just like, I don't know what that means. You just like, unless one number's higher than the other, yeah. So yeah, again, I've not given it a yes or no, but from what we do have, yeah, headgear only protects from lacerations.
Interesting.
And people tend to get bloody nose more. Like when we do it at the Muay Thai DP, because that whole area is unprotected, the nose, if for some reason, and the amount of bloody noses that we get almost nearly triples.
Everyone aims there.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a big thing in the middle, isn't it? It's like a target, and then so your argument would be, yeah, it just it would not really worth it, are they?
We had someone in the chat. He was saying that you look like Rafael Fizev, but you're more muscular. So I guess that's a good compliment.
I don't know who that is, but I'm glad for the for the compliment about my muscles. I'm pumped up after wrestling though, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. The post-wrestling pump is another level.
Yeah, it really is, and I think I've got heat stroke as well. We've only had one hot day in the UK all year, and it was today, and I don't deal well with the heat.
Fair enough. I wanted to ask you as well around the mouse guards.
Yeah.
Have you correlated anything with neck strength? Because neck strength is obviously a very controversial, I guess, topic when we're talking about CTE or just concussion or traumatic brain injury. Just with this, maybe I'll see some quick background again, purely from a conversation with Gary Turner many years ago, where his view is having a stronger neck is worse for traumatic brain injury because when the head moves, it dissipates force. I'm paraphrasing probably very badly. It dissipates force better around the head, whereas the head is still, the force goes straight through the brain. Now, obviously, I don't know, what your views are on that. But it'd be interesting to know if anything, you've correlated anything with neck strength, or if you have any views on neck strength and traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, so I have actually just made a big push because I've managed to worm my way into like high positions in a lot of the national teams. I've been collecting normative data on neck strength for a while, so I've probably a guy called Aidan Doyle, the head physio for GB boxing, has helped me with it a lot. And basically, we've just got a big Excel sheet just full of what we wanted was a big spreadsheet of normative data, and we've pretty much got there now. But the idea is now to do something with it. So now regular testing, we can actually now see the differences between different sports. GB boxing hasn't been testing neck strength for I don't know the view of their S&C coach, but basically he had a negative view. He basically said there was no normative data, so how do you know if the tests of
Was
someone
this Gary Hutt, or
I don't know, I'd have to ask Aiden. But yeah, basically there's no normative data, so how do you know if it's good or not? It's not like we could say that looks strong, but is it strong if we've only got a sample of 10 people? You know, like maybe they all have strong necks. So maybe this guy who's got a slightly less strong neck has still got a strong neck, which is a good point. But I'm trying to build that database now. We would probably try and publish it. Maybe it's all about publications nowadays. We'll probably try and put it out there. Yeah, I'm a big believer that neck strength will help. I know there's limited studies, and everyone quotes that one study. I can't even remember the percentage now. Where
5%?
yeah,
It was a 5% every 1 pound of neck strength increase is 5% reduction in concussion or something like
yeah,
that, I think.
and it came from one study, didn't it? And it's been heavily like over referenced, but it needs exploring more. I can't again with attenuation and how the body attenuates force. And this is me thinking on the spot. I can't see how the head being still would aid in actually helping. Sorry, not the head being still, quite the opposite. Having the head move, because we do know, and it's been proven many times, that whiplash and angular acceleration causes more brain injuries and more damage to the brain than anything else. So we know that that's pretty much been out there for a while. So yeah, the idea is to prevent that. I mean, have you seen many people get knocked out when their head hasn't been shot back or twisted? And probably the answer, I imagine, probably would be no. I certainly watch a lot of people get knocked out in my role in as a medical kind of staff in a lot of these events, and when you watch it back, the heads they've always bounced back, they've always twisted. Someone could take a shot and move the head, it's very likely they're going to be knocked out. I know that's like a very anecdotal, subjective thing to say, but people like imagery, don't they? So yeah, I would disagree with that. It would be an interesting discussion though to have, because I'm literally thinking on the spot. But the mouth guards, I haven't done it yet, and I didn't actually have I've got. It's so like novel at the moment. I've got so much that I can pump out with it that I probably not going to look at neck strength for a long, long time. But a researcher called Molly, who's helping me as well, she's took all the rugby league data, and now what she's doing is she's measuring neck strength and she's trying to find a link.
Mm.
So Molly, one of our researchers, is trying to do that. Last time I spoke to her, I don't know if she's like found the head to actually have correlated anything yet. I'll let you know when she does, because I'm really, really interested in it. But again, it's something you constantly hear, isn't it? We have a fixed plate dynamometer called Kangatech. I think it's by an Australian company actually, and cost us loads of money. And basically, that's pretty much how they sold it to us. Not that we needed a selling pitch, we needed a fixed plate dynamometer, so I think we were going to buy it no matter what. But that was kind of it, that this guy had been using it going around. He was working in hockey in Scandinavia, and he was using it to measure neck strength after concussion, and kind of used the baseline to then post-concussion testing as a measure of returning people to sport. Again, heavily anecdotal, but he, swore by it. But I guess what we're figuring out from me blabbling on is that there's not enough research, is there? And it's predominantly anecdotal at the moment. So realistically, I'm not going to get to it for a long time, because there's so much more that I need to kind of get down and publish first. But hopefully they see a link in rugby. Yeah.
Are you training your own neck based on just general, I guess, theory, anecdotal, just in terms of maybe your own medical?
Well, I need to train more in general. I don't a lot of supplementary stuff anymore, because life is busy. There was a
Mhm.
time where I did, and I certainly put a lot of effort into kind of neck strength based stuff. Um, Now not so much. I mean, I'm still competing. It's a catch wrestling championships next Saturday, which I'm competing in. But with my time, I'm pretty much sprint intervals. I'm wrestle are the only things
Nice.
because they're the only thing I can fit in. Um, but I definitely recommend it to whenever I'm kind of in with athletes. Um, and again, you kind of know the dynamics in bigger teams. You kind of have like, it's always kind of in your multidiscipline teams, sometimes kind of like the more sports med staff will have players for a certain amount of time and then they'll go to S&C. Or I've even been in S&C teams where you're just based in the S&C team. You're just a member of the S&C team and you just take on the aspects that best fit you and it kind of gets that, like, totally that way. And certainly it's always been a massive thing in the professional rugby that I've worked in. Combat sports, not so much, but they don't really train as a national team. Within the GB wrestling, they have like GB Muay Thai have like England's Muay Thai team get together like once every 2 months or something, have a big session where they all just kick the hell out of each other, take a big picture, and then well, so like there's no training. It's probably something that I would definitely recommend because I can't see a negative in it, and, and if you can't see a negative in it, and there's a possible link to lowering concussion, I would probably do it personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Just sign up GB Muay Thai and stuff for the Sweet Science of Fighting training happen there. But what's funny enough is the next stuff was interesting to me. I've done some video, must have been, geez, almost 7 years ago, I think, and I've redone some videos on neck stuff. What really interested me was the idea of like reactive neck training,
Yeah,
because a lot of times, like, you don't see whatever's coming. And I had a, so what I had is this was like 7 years ago. I had an iron neck, and I
yeah,
hooked it up to a 1080 Quantum. I don't know if you've used a 1080 Quantum at all.
no,
It's
I know it.
basically like it's like a big cable column, and you can set the tether to like isotonic, isokinetic, etc. And so I had it on isokinetic eccentric overload. So my idea was, if I do eccentric overload on my neck, I can get adaptations, right? Longer
Yeah,
muscle fat length, faster shortening velocity, faster rate of force development. So if something does
yeah,
whatever happen, I can
I
put
can
the
make
brakes on
genesis right
faster.
in the neck. Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, sweet. And I thought it was going to be so sore, but luckily, I guess I was doing enough neck and jiu-jitsu where I didn't have the DOMs, but 40 kilos, just like thing on front, and then boom, and then have it pull my head forward and just resist. And I did the same thing sideways, 40 kgs, just pulling and then resisting this
what
way.
were the DOMs like on your neck? There must have been
I was
like
good. I was
really.
good the next day. Yeah, I was good. I thought I was going to be effed. I was like, this is going to be the dumbest experiment. But I think just because I was training so off, like I was in jiu-jitsu at the time, like 4 or 5 days a week. And then I was also training my neck. So I was obviously conditioned enough to be able to handle it. But I was like, if I wasn't doing anything, yeah, it wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, I get it. I sometimes we have like validity studies and stuff all the time that you can do at the uni that I'd sometimes jump into to make that put a sample of one person basically. And I was doing it on a fixed plate diet, now to do a day, and I had neck DOMs for about 4 days. It was horrible. And all I did was like 5 minutes of like max effort, 5 seconds, like isometric contractions each way, and my neck just it took days. I was like, oh,
That's
God.
brutal though. Like max ISOs, like it's tough, man, because you don't often maximally exert your neck. You're kind of just resisting the entire time when you're doing different sports.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of young students, like around 2021, that I already knew their scores and I was determined not to get beat by them. So I really, really pushed it. But one guy did beat me, which is an American footballer, so I'd take that. Like, it was big, about twice my size. He wasn't that big. I just, every time I tell a story, he gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Have you do you have any data or insights into MMA gloves versus boxing gloves?
No, that's what the next grant is for. So basically, yearly I have to bid for a grant. I have to write um what I've done with the money in the previous year. And then I have to then bid for more money for this year. And hopefully, well, actually, it's normally mid-June you find out. I'll know if I've got enough money then to put it into MMA. There is one researcher called Naz down at the University of Colchester, but he's pretty much just doing, he's doing pure sparring data, to which it'll be interesting to see what he finds. But what I like about comp data is we know what everyone's going to be doing, hitting as hard as they can when sparring. Again, completely subjective, but I imagine it's going to differ from gym to gym depending on how they spar and what the philosophy is of the gym and so forth, or even the level of what and how experienced they are. So I am really interested. Oh, no, I tell a lie. I've used MMA gloves once, me personally. So Hitman is a promotion in the UK. It's by Liam Harrison, a legendary. Actually, that's why I teach wrestling at Bad Company Leeds. But Liam Harrison's now got his own promotion, Hitman, and they use it as kind of like a feeder to the One Championship. To pretty much to have it's almost like a league, and if you get to the top, you get a contract with One Championship. And because One Championship fight in MMA gloves sometimes when they do Muay Thai, one of the fighters, Fergus Smith, it was, amongst others, Hall had to fight in MMA gloves. So I actually got some data from that, to which I don't think I'm going to use because it doesn't really fit into anything at the moment. But not all the data I take I'm actually going to use for studies. It's just good to learn. The more I know about it, probably the best I know how I'm going to now theme put further topics on. And it was, to be fair, it did look pretty high. The thing is, though, again, not groundbreaking, but the heavier the fighter is, the harder the impacts are. So every time you go up a weight category, all the hits get harder. So to then have an accurate, probably not even accurate, but a better comparison, you need to be comparing data in weight categories. And again, I don't have enough people in every weight category for me to make many conclusions. So it's going to just be kind of like an overall load of people added up with overall weight, than me being able to do individual comparisons. But yeah, it's pretty high in MMA gloves. Mainly they've got the whole thing, the hands wrapped, and they've got protection on the hand, so they're very unlikely to break the hand, so they can still punch as much as they want. But obviously, it's still a much more smaller surface area, so there's more lacerations, but they're also punching to the frequency and the magnitude of what you could do in a glove. I say glove like a 10-ounce glove. But again, I think the saving grace is the round system and the amount of time that they're actually in being able to throw punches. And I think it's pretty much always going to come down to that. And it sounds like such a terrible conclusion to a student because it is very obvious. Let someone hit you for 20 minutes or let someone hit you for 8 minutes, and it's always going to be a higher load in the 20. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm really interested to see. I think with MMA, it's going to be different because obviously that was Muay Thai wearing MMA gloves, but there's no ground and pound. I'm really interested to see what ground and pound is going to be like. But there's also overall load might go down because it depends how grappling heavy a match is. So yeah, I am really interested. Wanted to move ahead like a steam train basically, but I've realized that the data is so novel that it has to go step by step. So basically it just has to be descriptive data. And in fact, the first step is to do a validity rating on the mouth guards in boxing. So we've got a validity rating from a crash test dummy. We've got a validity rating in rugby league, but we now need to test all the false positives to the positives and actually give it a validity rating and then do all this descriptive analysis. So it's such a long way from me being able to kind of yeah, do what I planned on doing when I bid the grant. But I'm not. I'm still just as excited, and it means that there's more publications, and more publications just looks good, doesn't it, on ResearchGates?
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is. It is. I laugh, but a lot of it is. What's the impact factor in the journal, and how many do you have?
Yeah, pretty much. What's interesting about the MMA versus boxing as well is obviously the anecdotal, I guess, reference of like boxing, you're always punching to the head. Well, most times the head in training, you're always striking. Whereas in MMA, you kind of mix it up. Some days you might have grappling. The sport also involves grappling, so you might not have head strikes. Obviously, you mentioned the time thing, but I'm assuming then that MMA would be slightly, quote unquote, safer for the brain and head than boxing. Would you tend to agree with that?
Yeah, for the simple fact that when people get knocked out, or even in a position where they look like they're going to get knocked out because they're getting ground and pounded, it stops. Where in boxing, it doesn't. They get stood up, and they can get stood up multiple times. And you've probably heard that before. I don't think that's anything kind of novel. People have been saying it for a while. But from my knowledge and from the mouth guards, it's incredibly, well, not even from the mouth guards, we know it's incredibly dangerous to possibly get a concussion and then go back in and get another. It's the second concussion that's always the most dangerous one. And that's generally what can kill people. When people have died in sport from head impact, it's normally multiple concussions in one that people haven't spotted. And that's obviously why all the head protocols have come in. And as soon as people fail these concussion tests that are put forward, they're off. And now that we have like really kind of detailed guidelines to return to play, and I guess that's what I want in combat sports. I guess that's the big kind of goal. So actually have some sort of baseline testing. So in football, we use SCAT6. So SCAT6, you might basically goes up in numbers to have a meeting. I think it's in Berlin every couple of years, all the experts, and they update this kind of baseline testing protocol. So then in a couple of years, we'll have SCAT7 and there'll be SCAT8. We're on SCAT6 at the moment. And basically, if you do a baseline test, when you think you've had a concussion, you can take the test again. It's basically like a cognitive test. Do you remember when Donald Trump was saying he did the test and he said that he remembered all the things, whatever it was, kitchen? It's literally like that. You get told, it's like, here are 5 words, repeat back to me, and you get a score if you can do them in order. And then you do a few kind of, can you walk in a straight line, like in tandem and so forth. And yeah, you can do that after you suspect someone has a concussion. And obviously, if the score's dropped, it either shows you which possible things it's dropped on. So like at what part of the cognitive testing are they worse at. Like is it more like the somatic sensory kind of stuff, or the more the cognitive stuff, and that's then how you would then return them. So all the way through, you go through these like so many days before returning to contact, and then you can keep doing the SCAT6 again, and it's really good. And it's like it should happen in combat sports, really. I know that a lot of promotions will literally just say like, that's you out for 30 days. That's you done for 3 months, depending if it looked bad. Where there's actually tools that really well funded sports have to do it properly. Or there's an app called Impact. GB Boxing, we're using it for a bit. That again is like an app where you just do it all through the app. Again, you figure out return to play through guidelines. And that is what is really needed. And it can easily be fit in, like before Muay Thai has tournaments like World Championships and so forth. Other fighters, professional fighters, obviously don't really have tournaments, so they'll have 1 or 2, possibly 3 fights a year, but doing it before the fight, or doing it, putting it in with the S&C kind of periodization plan, you're going to do all these baseline assessments that we're going to use to help kind of measure progress. Let's put some kind of concussion baseline testing in there too. And I think that's what will really change the game. And it's so simple to do. It's much more simple than buying an expensive mouthguard and following someone around with an iPad and then getting all this data and being like, let's publish some statistics. So there's loads of stuff that's already out there. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with like the GB Muay Thai Association and the English MMA Association. It's all about buy-in, and people are very enthusiastic, people on board. Everyone wants it, but then it's finding logistically how to do it when everyone's scattered all over the country and only comes together like once a month. And so yeah, that is probably my goal more so than research, is actually putting something in place that I know will actually be positive. Because like research is a dime a dozen sometimes. You put out an epidemiology study, you're going to get maybe some citations in someone's dissertation, but realistically, it doesn't do anything. From my experience, it doesn't do anything. I've got a mug with my first publication on. I was so happy. It's got the abstract on. I thought like, that's it. I've changed freestyle wrestling in Britain for forever now. Everyone's safety protocols are going to come in. Obviously, nothing happens. Like zero happens, and you're just like, well, that was incredibly anticlimactic. And it's just like, well, yeah, that's right, because not many people read research papers. It's only kind of like a certain level of like a coach or a clinician that will. What I found is best is actually getting people, it's working with associations, it's working with people in a gym. If you've got access to a gym and you're like, again, the physio, the sports therapist, even the S&C coach, because the S&C coach will still know tons more about concussion because of the physiology that they know. And again, probably just working in the sport for a long time, just being like, right, why don't we do this as a gym? Why? So like, even at gym lesson level, association level, it would really hurt. It would really help. So like, even just a poster on the wall, like, do you think you're concussed? Here are some signs. Because you don't really see it around. And when it comes to like severity, it's much more severe than someone pulling a hamstring or even fracturing their ankle. It will heal, where obviously we don't really know the extent of how much impact's needed for CTE yet, or like, so that it's just the best way to do it. It's not to stop your sport. No one wants to stop their sport. People do their sport because they're good at it. They've trained for some people all their life, for mental health, for you know, for social aspects. So you're not going to people to stop it, and that's not what people are trying to do, or at least I hope it's not. It's trying to bring in procedures that have worked in other sports that have a lot of funding, and just being like, right, let's use this. 15 minutes it takes to do a scat 6, then 15 minutes to do it when you think you're concussed. But again, I've rambled a bit there, but I that's, in my opinion, if I can manage to get that to become a regular thing, then I'd be a very happy man, because I know that it would actually do good. When I'm sat here writing, like, trying to what fanciest word to use in a sentence to I'm just like, it's not going to do anything, is it? Yeah, that is my goal. It's what I want, and if I achieve that, I'll be very proud of myself.
How sensitive is, say, something like that SCAT6 test? And I mean, as like, I'm not sure how to frame it properly, but will it pick up even like minor concussion symptoms? I'm assuming there's probably some people that can operate pretty well, even if they've been knocked in the head.
Yeah, and I think it's very kind of, I was going to say holistic. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it's got different sections. So it would be very hard for someone to, I don't know if you're trying to beat it, because it's not a lie detector test, but it'd be very hard for someone to get through the whole test without lowering the score. And that's what we're looking for. You get a score at the end. So it's like just doing a pub quiz. You'll get a score like 50 out of, you get 50 for example. And then if they then redo it and they get 49, well, not 49 again, that's not enough to drop. But say 39 or whatever, then again, that's your saying they've got a concussion. You treat it the same. So it doesn't matter if they're failed by 10 points or 20 points, or I say it doesn't matter if they've dropped from their original baseline, because it all matters what they got in their baseline. That's not like normative data, it's just what they dropped from their baseline. We still treat it as a concussion, and therefore then they stick to the guidelines. So you return to play your 14 days, your 21 days, your 28 days. So like, I don't. There is validity studies and things like that. And I know they're all very high, and obviously that's the reason why FIFA and the English Football Association, many other football associations use them, because one of the most, I think it's the most reliable tool that we currently have. And like I said, there's another app called Impact, but you have to pay for that. And then again, it becomes expensive. You then need it for your whole team and so forth. Where SCAT6, again, they're free. You can just print them off. Or you can do them online, I believe. So yeah, it's a free tool that costs no one any money. And it is really simple to do. It literally tells you what you need to ask. It needs to tell you what you need to ask them to do. You know, like walk in tandem for 2 meters or 3 meters, how it is. So like it's idiot proof. So yeah, it's hard to do without just like when we teach our students it, they pick it up pretty fast, even if they don't fully understand why they're doing it. And hopefully they do understand, or if they will do by the end of the degree. But it's just something that you can go through the process of actually recording and then knowing if the score's dropped without maybe even fully understanding why it's dropped. But they can at least say, right, you have a concussion. And obviously when they were a student, they would come to a supervisor who'd look at it in more detail. So like you can even if people are doing it at the gym and they don't fully understand why it's dropped and they don't really fully understand the test, they can at least say, I'm pretty sure you've got a concussion because your score's dropped. Go and see your doctor or go and... So yeah, I think on the long term, that's currently with what we have. And when it comes to actually having resources or not wanting people to pay for stuff, the SCAT6 is
so easy to implement. And like anyone listening to this can just start implementing it at their gym and just doing it regularly, and they can have the data and least start to look up and stuff.
Yeah, it's for what the time it takes to do is to like how it's going to help you. And like people ask me all the time, like when they're in fights, they're like, I think I've got a concussion. How long should I take off? I'm like, did you do any baseline testing? Considering you are a fighter and you know you're gonna fight and you know you're gonna get hit in the head, and like, no. You're like, well, now it's just guesswork. It's just guesswork now because I have nothing to go by. So you just do basic generic guidelines where it's... I'm just passionate about it. I've seen it for many years now, and you're just like come on, you're gonna have... You want a long career in fighting, and I want you to have a long career, but I also want you to be healthy when you're 40, you're 50, you're 60. And I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just saying, why don't we put the effort in that you put into running every morning? Or I feel like that's my rant about SCAT6s, but I'm quite passionate about it.
What's interesting as well, regarding head impacts and traumatic brain injury, the first person that comes to mind is someone like Rod Tang, right? He takes a shit ton of head impact, and he seems, I guess, okay, or at least he doesn't get dropped, anything like that. Have you found that some guys are just more robust to high impact? You mentioned like that 50 unit threshold in rugby, and guys kind of have to go on the field. Have you just seen guys that maybe just can handle high impacts or high impact loads throughout a fight?
I mean, it's hard to tell because there's people that can handle concussions better, that's for sure. But again, if you were to do like a SCAT6 after, basically there are people that come in so we run an injury clinic on campus, and we have like an athlete development center. We're really lucky. We've got a very state-of-the-art building that's only a couple of years old and costs a lot of money. So we get a lot of local teams, like the Leeds Rhinos, who's obviously the closest rugby league team, but we had like Josh Warrington, the boxer, and some Olympic athletes that use it. And basically all the teams come into our injury clinic. It's free, and we use the students use it to practice. And we have people coming in all the time for their SCAT6. Well, yeah, they say they think they've got concussion, said they did a baseline, and you can have a full conversation with them for like, when they're waiting for their appointment for 20 minutes. They can be incredibly articulate. They walked in fine. They said that they even cycled to university that day, and they feel completely fine, and then they'll fail their SCAT6. So it is really interesting. Like, I've had loads of concussions, and I've already got like a prominent list. I'm deaf in my right ear from when I was in Afghanistan. I'm already relatively hard to understand. but like I am just like I almost can't lecture because my brain has gone. I can't. There's so much speech,
Yeah.
it's terrible. You won't want to sit in the front row. But like I can't deal with concussions very well at all. But like you said, there's some people that are just like, but they still fail the SCAT-6, and that's I guess what the important thing is. And
Mm.
yeah, and I don't know why it is. I have no idea what the physiology is behind it and how some people just don't appear concussed when they are. It would be interesting to do. I honestly don't know how you would go about that study. That's probably way above my intelligence level.
Just put the mouth guard in rod tang and just see what
Yeah,
kind of.
but that's it. He will still get the impacts, won't he? Because I mean, you don't need a mouth guard to know that he's taking impacts, do you? And then, like you said, he's just he eats him up. So yeah, I guess some people are more resilient to an extent, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's getting less brain
Mm.
damage. And it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what he's like in like 20 to 30 years. I mean, it's not a given by any means, but I mean, it's like smoking, isn't it? The more you
Yeah.
smoke, the more chance you've got of getting lung cancer, but it doesn't mean you will get lung cancer. So like, yeah, it's one of those things that, it's 2025 and we're still just finding out things. Like I didn't think it would take till 2025 to be able to measure head impact in a competitive bout with mouth guards. I presumed it was already done. Like
Yeah.
before I got into like academia, like if you'd have said to me when I was in the military, oh, they can do this, I'm like, yeah, of course I can, sure they can. We can do everything nowadays. It's only when you kind of start researching that you're like, well, actually, there's not as much out there as you think there is.
Mm.
Yeah. So again, I can't answer that to definite. I can only say that some people can they just look completely symptom free until you get them to do all these cognitive tests, and then you realize that they have dropped. And it's what their original baseline is. Some people just have high baselines, so their baseline can drop and they can still be like function better than some people can when they're not concussed. So, yeah.
So being dumb will help.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, you could have a really poor baseline just because you're very clumsy. Yeah, but you still drop, so you just become more clumsy and more stupid.
I've
So,
got another question that you might not be able to answer then as well, which is the opposite of that. So you obviously hear about fighters who get like chinny, quote unquote, as they progress through their career, and
yeah, and the
someone
chin goes.
touches their chin and they get dropped.
Yeah,
I don't know. Have you seen any data or trends around that? Like,
yeah, there is.
are they taking like less? Are they taking less impact force and still getting dropped? I don't know. I don't know if there's something that.
So I'll be able to answer this better because I feel like I've not even answered one of your questions.
It's good. That's part of it, right? Like you kind of have different answers to everything.
I feel like these needs to be questions that you gave me a week before. I wouldn't want to know. It's good. I love discussion on the spot. So yeah, there is data on it's easy to get a concussion when you've already. So basically, every concussion you get, it's easy then to get your next concussion, which is something that I didn't learn through studying this. It's something that I've had 13 diagnosed concussions, which is really high. And I know some were just stupid, some were just like accidents, and some was from wrestling or doing MMA. And it was then that I asked the doctor, this was years ago, I asked the doctor, I'm like, that's that more than average. And he was like, yeah, obviously.
Obvious.
Obviously it is. It's targeting me like I'm an idiot because I've had 13 concussions. He's probably within his right to do. It was from that I kind of looked into it. And obviously I've looked back into it now and kind of looking at it. And yeah, basically you do. So again, you would say that to knock somebody out, I don't know if that directly correlates with you're more likely to get a concussion. So you can say you're more likely to get a concussion from being knocked down afterwards. But I don't know if that, and again, I don't know, I'd have to look into it. I don't know if there's an answer to that or not. It doesn't necessarily explain why their chin can't take it. It can explain why cognitively their brain can't take it, and something that wouldn't have necessarily added been a concussion is now a concussion. But I don't know if then that correlates with the force and what they're hit with to knock them out. And again, you could eventually answer that with the mouth guards, but you would have to take a lot of data over a long period of time. To do that, it would take a long period of time, and it would need to monitor several fighters that have had several knockouts to do it. And still, you wouldn't even have enough data to say, to like confidently say, you would only be able to say it suggests. So like,
Yeah,
it's also really interesting that would be a really good thing to look into. And I
it
think
would be.
that's going to be one of those longevity studies, isn't it? Where if you keep the mouth guards in for a long time, we can actually start to look back at well, it won't even be historical, but we can start back to look at the data and just see what trends we can find. The problem is unless you're in professional fighters, people's careers are quite short, especially if you're looking at an amateur sport. And like in bare knuckle boxing, I've only got a certain amount of money to work with, James, and I am like somebody will say they'll be on a card to fight, so they'll be on BKFC to fight. They'll come to like the press day where we do a bit of athlete testing and we get everyone fitted from out to get dental scanned because they're all customer fit dental scanned. And we get the pay for the mouth guard, get the mouth guard ordered, and then the fight won't be on the card anymore and disappeared. You try and contact them, really like, are you gonna fight again? Just to let you know you've got your mouth guard. It's fitted to your mouth, so I can't do anything with it. And they just won't get back to you. And you'd be like, well, that's, to me, it's just like, that's one down in my sample. Then it's also the dent in the grant, and that I'm going to have to now explain it at the end of the year to why but some money's just gone.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me 3 times now.
Dude.
Every time is really quite gutting because I'm just like, and you think about who you could have given it to as well. You're like, so and so wanted one, and I said, oh no, we want this data from this event, and I want so many like bare knuckle boxers rather than a MMA guy or Muay Thai. And then the fighter that wanted it, he didn't give in to, goes on to have an amazing 5-round bout that had loads of head. And you're looking at it every time the head shoots back, and you're just like,
there's a data point missed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a frustrating thing. So it's even like finding the best way to do it. Like I found going through BKFC, it's been amazing because I've worked for them for a long time. I know a lot of the fighters, but because it's a promotion, you go through the promotion and they say like, these are on our cards. We can get in touch with them for you, and we'll explain to why the study's good, and they get behind you, and that's great. And then you can just turn up on the card, and so many people, like set amount of people, are wearing your mouth guards, and you take so much data from that fight, from that card. When you work with, say, an association, or you go into gyms, you end up going to an event for one person with a mouth guard. So you end up like driving 2 hours away, waiting all night, and then that one person comes out and you get some data, and then all sorts goes wrong. So you need video you clarify with a video. So I watch it back on something, I use NatSpot. So like that's just something I can stop it, the decimal by decimal, and I have to verify that every hit was actually a hit. And it hits where it says it is, because the mouth guards tell you where on the head it's hit. So I have to just check that it's all right. And then you'll message the promotion after, and they'll be like, oh no, we can't give you the footage. He'd be like, well, that's my Saturday gone. I drove 2 hours, got this, and then I can't do anything with the data. It's a bit like where I can sometimes say people, fighters and stuff that and it doesn't go against my ethics because I can't use that data. So like it's I can actually, and I end up being able to tell people a lot because it's not in the study anymore, just because something went wrong. And then I'm just kind of trying to like refine that now, James, so I don't end up wasting my time and I don't end up wasting my money. And like I said, or like wasting a day I could be spending with my little girl. Instead, I'm driving to Wolverhampton to watch an amateur boxing thing in a working men's club. And then I don't get any data from it. And then I drive back and then crying in my car on the drive back. So yeah, even just from that level, I need to like find the best possible methodology to get the most data and not waste my time. And so yeah, like there's all these amazing questions I want to answer, and I'm still at the point of how do I stop fighters saying they're going to fight and then just running off with a, with a free dental fitted mouth guard. So like I'm so far away from like certain things that I want to be at, but at the same time, just this basic level knowledge that I'm gaining, just the fact that I can code now, I have to code to be able to do the data, and I couldn't before, and just the fact that it went from me just having a pure headache just looking at someone else coding to being able to do it. It just means that like I know I have progressed, but yeah, all these questions I wish I could answer in better for you, James, but like I just at the moment.
It's good. I'm just asking questions that keep coming in my head, and
No, they're amazing,
it.
and they're things that I want to know myself, and it's almost frustrating. If I had more money and a bigger team, not my money, so I'm not. If I had more grant money and I had people that could collect the data for me, and I could send people to multiple events, it would be so much quicker. So it's frustrating to me is that I can't, because it's been going for over a year and a half, and we still haven't got our first publication out. We're not far, but again, it's a lot of time spent like asking for more money. Again, you feel a bit like a beggar sometimes, creating these models or asking someone who knows how to create models to do stuff for you so you can bid for more money, and then you end up like not actually then doing the study. You end up bidding for more money to do the study. And anyway, I'm just ranting into about my problems in life now. I'm just moaning about my life.
Therapy podcast.
Yeah, it is becoming a therapy problem podcast.
It's all good. It's good to get an insight into kind of. It was probably good for listeners as well to get insight on what goes on into how some of this research is done and some of the problems that arise from doing it. But where can people find and follow you, John, and keep up with what you're doing?
I'm not on a lot because I hate social media. For mental health, I try to stay off it. But I do have a charity page that was set up. So a while ago, I set up some BJJ, some wrestling events that was to raise money for the British Limitless Veteran Association, because it was something that was close to my heart, and then it's moved on to this youth disabled charity from my hometown that I used to do volunteer for, and it's called Northern Grappling Co. So it's a bit confusing at first because it's just like, what is this? Because that's what it started out as. It started out as just a charity page for me setting up these events that all money went to these charities, and now it's kind of progressed. So obviously, that's where we contacted each other, and then now it's kind of progressed to like there's some research on there, some podcasts on there, there's some pictures from the BKFC and some cuts, and it's a bit of everything. I should really maybe. I'm terrible at marketing, and I don't really have anything to sell, so I don't need to market. But it's kind of, I should maybe refine it a bit more and just stick to a theme. So it is all over the place. But yeah, Northern Grappling Co is where they can find me. More importantly, like, if you wanted to get in touch because you want, I was going to say if you want something more niche, like more specific than that. But if you want to like collaborate in research, then by all means, I'm massively into people helping out and obviously being part of the research papers and stuff. Or if you're an athlete and you're interested in, obviously at the moment it's very UK based. I was talking to Don Murray, the head of medical for BKFC in America, trying to maybe get the mouth guards over there. So yeah, if you're an athlete, if you're a researcher, if you've just got a question about concussion, if I can't answer it, I know some amazing doctors that I work with at these events that can. Yeah, that's the best place. I'm not really on anything else. If you Google, not that, giving it away, James, I've Googled my own name, haven't I? If you Google my name and put wrestling or grappling on stuff, you know, it comes up with all my research papers and things like that. So you can get to me that way. Not that I do that on a weekly basis, but yeah, that you can find me that way as well. That's my work email as well, but I don't give that out that much because that's obviously, I need to keep that mainly for the university. But you can, if you were to Google my name and Leeds Beckett University, you would find my work email. As long as it's relevant to research or something, I wouldn't mind if if people contacted me that way as well.
Perfect. I'll link your Instagram down in the description as well for anyone who's keen to follow and get in touch. But I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything.
All right.
We'll definitely have to get you back on as well when you start getting through more of this research.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've followed you for a while now, James, and I get really frustrated with some of the absolute awful stuff on social media, and you've been a shining light in the stuff that I see you do. And
Well, I appreciate that. I
it's
appreciate that because I just got sent a little cease and desist in my email. So
really well. I like your stuff, James. I think in a world of disinformation or just stuff that doesn't need to be said. You've got some really good stuff. I think I've reposted you a few times, so if not, I send you directly to people that ask questions about it. So I'm really glad that you wanted me on. To be fair,
oh, of course, man. Of course, I'm always keen to bring guys like yourself on who are doing research in the space and stuff. A very soft spot for people who are doing research and stuff because I love it. I love all the stuff going on, and obviously within combat sports, there's only so much going on as well within research. So it's even better, and it brings a unique perspective as well than just you know just like somebody maybe working out of a gym or whatever like that and doing things. You get kind of fresh perspectives and real expertise into a certain topic.
everyone, there's not a single person that doesn't have something important or useful to say.
Mm.
Find, because, like you said, everyone works in different environments. Everyone's seeing different things, and everyone can bring a completely different perspective to everything. And that's mainly before you start any research. You talk to a lot of people. There might be a coach who's coached for 20 years but has never read an academic paper in his life, but he's still worth absolutely picking his brains because he will tell you everything about the sport. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I love discussion, and I really like your stuff as well, Jim. So I'll tell you that as well before I went.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, cheers for coming on, and we'll stay in touch anyway.
Thanks, James. We're just going to keep thanking each other.
I'm going to stop it.